Hey everyone, today I have with me Lauren McGoodwin. She is the career Contessa. She's a CEO and #1 power move advocate and has a life mission to help women build successful and fulfilling careers on their terms. Listen up, women. This one's for you. Lauren launched Career Contessa in 2013 out of her master's thesis project to close the gap in career development resources for women. Career Contessa now helps millions of women each year with their careers through content, online learning courses, and job listings. Lauren has spoken at TED Women, Yale, and Creative Artist Agency, appeared on Cheddar TV, Good Day LA, and of course, she's here with us now. Lauren is also the host of Career Contessa's podcast, The Females, covering all things women, work, and traits of success, and is currently writing her first book, Power Moves, coming out in May 2020 from Harper Business. Welcome to the show, Lauren. So wonderful to have you here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled.
Yeah, so I want to take you all the way back to college days at University of Oregon. And how did you imagine your career being back then?
Well, I actually went to school to become a teacher. So I definitely thought, at least the first 2 years of college, I was like, I've got this whole life thing planned out. Then I actually became a student teacher and I was like, I don't know if I want to be a teacher forever. So junior year, I started to kind of explore other opportunities, and I really did not have a very clear picture. I remember I decided I was going to go into marketing. I didn't know what that meant. And in hindsight, of course, marketing is just like a huge umbrella for so many very specific careers. So I really did not have a well thought out plan. I still graduated with an education degree with no plans to become a teacher. So it was a rough start. I think for me, what I could sum it all up in is I didn't lack ambition, but I definitely lacked direction. And that was challenging to say the least.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting that you bring up the marketing umbrella, right? I talked to a lot of undergrads who are like, I'm a marketing major. I want to do marketing. And It's like, marketing in what? You know, where is your passion? And I think that's why I always bring students back to, what do they care about? What's your passion? What are your strengths? What are your values? Because that's how you're going to align to something that you're going to want to market.
Right. I do remember, though, being asked about passions and hobbies and what do you love to do when I was an undergrad. And to be very honest, you're so scheduled throughout most of your life. You've got such a clear idea of you're going to go to this grade, then college, then this thing, that real life is really the first unscheduled part of your life, right? And if you're, went to college at least. And so it becomes one of those trigger questions where you're like, I don't know the answer to that because I've never truly had to think about that. And
I don't have time for a passion between all these majors and minors and different extracurriculars. But
totally.
But that was the point, right? Like, you got to hit the pause button. And find it.
Yeah, totally. And we also need to be thinking about that prior to either needing that career. It's like we're always coming to these conclusions like a day late and a dollar short kind of thing. We're like, I wish I had thought about this before the pressure was really on. Because as you know, we don't make the best decisions out of a lot of pressure being thrown on us.
Oh yeah. And the pressure of, I'm graduating, I need a job.
Yeah. And everybody's saying, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're like, if one more person asked me that. Yeah.
Well, so, okay. How did you decide that you were going to pursue your master's at USC? How did you make that next move? You graduated this teaching degree. You're like, I don't want to be a teacher. Okay. Yeah. Now what?
So just to provide a little context. So senior year of college, I knew I didn't want to be a teacher, and I was getting a business minor, and I was going to every single event on campus. I got a free internship working for the Eugene Marathon. Eugene is where University of Oregon is. And I was maybe 2 weeks away from graduating. I had interviewed everywhere. I hadn't gotten any jobs. And the Eugene marketing guy was like, well, I know that there's this company in Portland, that's looking for an event coordinator to help them for 2 months. The company was a nonprofit sports agency, but they were working with the Portland Marathon. And I was like, that's fine. I'll take it. Anything to just be able to tell people I've got this thing to do. So anyway, I did that for 2 months in Portland. And then I lucked out. The girl who was full-time there ended up leaving, and they were like, okay, well, you can will keep you on for full time. I was making $2,000 a month. I was living in my mom's house as my roommate, and my boyfriend, now husband at the time, was moving down to Los Angeles for his job. And I really wanted to just like go somewhere where I felt like there were more job opportunities. So we moved to LA. I ended up getting a job at University of Southern California. I was working in their admissions department. Again, not glamorous. It was really mundane, boring work. But because I was working at USC, I was able to enroll. I had to apply, but once I got in, I was able to pursue a master's degree, and they would pay for it, but I could only take one course per semester. So instead of getting my master's in a year, I got it over 3 years, but I did it debt free. And the reason why I did that is I really didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was really desperate to figure it out. And I just went down all these terrible rabbit holes of comparison and not feeling good enough, and crying on Sunday nights that I had to go back to work. And I feel like when you experience that, you really, naturally you want out of it. You want to fix it. You want to figure out how can I not be unhappy going to work every day, and I don't want this to be my status quo. And I think my first piece of advice for people is like, if you're feeling that way, hold on to that, because that motivation is actually really important, because there are plenty of people who just sort of get into that routine and they're like, okay, this is the way it is. It's work, but work doesn't have to suck. It really doesn't. So I randomly got an assignment,
work doesn't have to suck.
It really doesn't. There are definitely parts about work that are not glamorous, and not every second is going to be amazing, but it's like the equivalent of asking you to be happy 24/7. Like that's impossible too. So I volunteered for this position, or this like recruiting thing that we were doing for the university. And I fell in love with it. I was like, recruiting is a career for me. And the lesson here is like, I was going to so many recruiting related events in college, and sometimes you are just blind to what's a good fit for you, and timing matters. And so I really encourage people to engage with the work around them, because you just never know. Even if you think like, I've explored that opportunity before, you never know. And so, again, trying to make a long story short, I just knew that was the career for me. I was like, I'm going to be a recruiter. This is totally it. I did all the things. I had over 30 informational interviews with recruiters on LinkedIn. I studied it. I did everything I could to kind of teach myself everything you could learn about recruiting, and was able to leverage that into a recruiting position at Hulu. And I don't think it was the recruiting role. I think it was Hulu that was actually the really good fit for me. Yes, I was doing a job that I had, my strengths were really aligned with, but I was really thoughtful about what type of company I wanted to work for. And my best piece of advice for anybody looking for a job, whether it's your first job or your 25th job, focus on the company, not the job. Jobs ebb and flow, as you know, like job functions change a lot. People have to adapt. Whatever you think you're doing in marketing or whatever role it is, say it's going to change. But the company, the values, the people that work there, how they treat their employees. One of the things I loved about Hulu is there were a lot of really smart people there who operated with a ton of urgency. And I'm a person where I want to get things done. I don't want to take a year to get one thing done. And so that was
so you went from academia to corporate. So you saw both sides.
Let me tell you, I'm much more interested in moving a little faster. And that's really important. But also that was also the first time I experienced loving my job. And that's when it clicked for me. I was like, if you love your job, you literally will see other things in your life get better that you're like, your relationships with yourself, your friends, your family, your significant others, like how you spend your day with work and what you're doing has a significant impact in the other parts of your life. So one, yes, work does not have to suck. And two, if you are unfulfilled in your job right now, then okay, it's time to, put on your big girl pants and be like, we're going to figure this out. We are going to figure this out. It's not easy. It takes time. There's no instant, Amazon Prime situation for your career. So you have to figure out ways to cope with it, but it is totally possible and it's totally worth it. At least I've experienced it being totally worth it.
Yeah. What I love about hearing your story, and what I think is so important for our listener who's saying, hey, I am unfulfilled in my career, I'm not doing what I love, or I don't know what I want to do, is that it wasn't just you stepped in somewhere and just fumbled your way and found something, right? You were intentionally taking on experiences that did allow you to discover,
Yes.
serendipitously that recruiting was the thing. And then you realized it was the company that was the thing. But you were interning, like that very first internship, maybe it wasn't exactly aligned with what you wanted to be doing, but it was getting you one step closer. You were in a marketing role. You were working in events. And then, it's like you can connect the dots, of course, looking back. But if you're in that position right now, guys, feeling lost, take that first step. Take that first step in that direction, because listen to Lauren's journey, right? It's going to be messy and it's going to suck sometimes, but your work doesn't have to suck. I love that line. So tell me about where you are today and what your life is like as a CEO of Career Contessa. And I've got many more questions for you on that one, but I'll just start with that one.
So I worked at Hulu for a number of years. I absolutely loved it. Working at a startup is also a great place if you're not totally sure what you want to do, because you get to work on a lot of different stuff. So I did recruiting, I did talent development.
If you're listening to this and you're like, Hulu, a startup, but think, Lauren, when you were at Hulu was what year?
Yeah, so I think that was 2011.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah. I think that's when I started let's put it this way. We were a small enough company that we pretty much knew who everybody was. There was like 200 of us.
That's so cool to be at the ground floor, like to be at the beginning of Hulu.
Yeah, it was awesome. I helped Bob Iger get his coffee once, who, as you guys know, is the CEO of Disney. That's my claim to fame at Hulu. He was there for a board meeting and he didn't know how to work the coffee machine. I was like, oh, I got you. And they were like, no, you talk to. I was like, who's that? It was really cool. So when I left Hulu, I was very bittersweet. I loved Hulu, but what had happened is I had finished my master's degree. My last semester was when I started working at Hulu. And so I created Career Contessa as the prototype in my master's. And my master's was all about millennial women and career resources. As someone who had just gone through this, I was like, I think there's something here. Like there's no one's teaching you how to figure out your career. And we're in this like new career landscape or, workplace landscape. Also, there's more women in the workplace today than there's ever been in our lives. And so it was weird to me. I was like, why are people not addressing the fact that women get treated differently? Again, this was 2013. Now, of course, we're like very aware of some of the stuff, but people were not reporting on unconscious bias and mansplaining and all that.
Right. And how many women are CEOs today? Isn't it like
not
3% of CEOs are women? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We could double check that stat, but we know it's not a lot.
It's not a lot. And women of color, God, I don't even know the stat, but it's probably less than 1% or something like that. I think there's more CEOs named John than there are women CEOs, period. I'm pretty sure.
Oh gosh.
Maybe it's not John. It's like Jeffrey or something.
I think you're right. Right. We're gonna say it's right for this podcast.
Yeah. So anyway, so I started Career Contessa as a side hustle, and essentially what was happening is I was kind of feeling more and more drawn to this, like, hey, nobody is talking to women in the workplace. I'm a recruiter. I'm working in talent development. Women are having serious issues. We didn't have a lot of female leadership at Hulu. The first woman got pregnant at Hulu. We didn't even have a maternity leave policy. Like I, as a young female manager, and I felt like I was getting different opportunities than the men in the company. So I was feeling like more and more passionately driven to like, this has to exist because there has to be a resource out there that can help people, but also give them kind of that transparent, real talk, like this is actually what's really happening, not like what monster.com is painting on their blog post or whatever. So when I
like within the company, like for women who are in the company who know what it feels like every day to show up and be treated differently, to know that there are less opportunities for them, or just the challenges that they face. You wanted to speak to that woman.
Yeah, I wanted like a super successful friend girl to give me advice, and there was nobody to give you advice, and there was definitely no place on the internet, which even today you're like, the internet has the answers for everybody or for everything. Someone out there's thought about this, and they had, but nobody was like putting it in this way where it was, consistent, where you could go there to get your, basically talk about your career challenges and find some better ways forward, some solutions. So I left Hulu to work on Career Contessa full time. Probably it was like the end of 2014, right around 2015. And I worked on it for a year on my own before I got my first, I actually had an advertiser who came on board, and like, I wasn't even necessarily looking for that, but this was back in the days where, like, you know, I was creating content, I was talking about stuff, and I was still trying to figure it out. But anyway, my first content brand deal came on, and I used that money to hire my first employee and think about, okay, like, what is Career Contessa and what's my goal with it? How am I going to turn into it? And, you know, we've always been really focused on providing a lot of free advice, but also making sure that we're a place where companies that do put women first and are what we call female forward have a place to post jobs. Like, our goal is to help people be successful. So that comes in a lot of different ways with a lot of different resources. But at the end of the day, it's like, we want to be the best career advice for women out there anywhere. Like, and I think hands down, we are an authority. We have experts where we don't give fluff. We're not full of business jargon. We're not life coachy. Like, we're going to tell you how it is, but we're going to give you some facts and some experts to back it up. And that's always been really important to me as well, as like, if you're going to be giving people career advice, like, take it freaking seriously, because this is their career. And I think we've always done that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I knew your brand before I knew you. So I think you are an authority in this space. So Lauren, tell me about the object you brought and how it reflects your passion.
So I brought, I don't know if you guys can see it, but this is my vision board that
I
made.
love it.
So I made that in January last year, or January of 2019. I am really big on, I love goal planning. I love vision boards. I love writing things out and making a plan. It really energizes me. So I spent a lot of 2019 writing my book, Power Moves. And so I was thinking a lot about, okay, what is it that I want the book to communicate? How do I want people to feel after they're done reading it? So this vision board was very much focused on a lot of red and power, and, you know, I guess operating from a place of, you know, of course you're not perfect, but you're figuring it out, and motivation. And so for me, it was very much a vision board of like, what do I want people to feel like when they're done reading the book, or while they're reading the book. And the book is really, it's called Power Moves, but what we've learned over our time at Career Contessa, and one of the things that's been really interesting, is we've been around for over 6 years. We've interviewed thousands of women. We've talked to a lot of readers. We spend all day, every day thinking about careers, and we've actually been able to really consolidate what it takes, or the people who are successful versus the people who are in this constant, I guess, like,
Flux.
They're constantly, looking like flux, and they're always looking for it, is what I call power moves. And it's really this approach to your career. It's being proactive. It's being in the driver's seat of your career. It's being the person who's saying, I'm not going to let things just happen. I'm going to be really purposeful about how I guide my career. And it doesn't mean you have to have all the answers. It doesn't mean you have to know that you want to be a doctor, lawyer, and then enroll in that school and go to it. It's more about approaching your career with progress over perfection, small wins add up, small moves, strategic moves, thoughtful moves. And that's really what we've seen is the difference between women who are kind of letting their careers happen, and people who are, again, building those careers on their terms, and they're directing them, and they're much, it's the difference between maybe a successful career and a successful and fulfilling career. And that is, it's really important, I think.
Yeah. Well, I want to hear, what's your power move for 2020?
Well, my power move for 2020 is to promote power moves. But also, I think for me, my power move is really going to be about trying to take a closer look at everything that we do in our business and be really strategic about it, and be much more thoughtful about, you know, quality over quantity. We do have a lot of resources on our site, and we offer a lot of content, and being really just like thoughtful about, you can't do everything. You can't be everywhere. So what are the things that you're going to do, and do them really, really, really well? And so that's what I want the year to do, is almost less is more of approach when it comes to running Career Contessa as a business, and thinking about how we can provide those solutions in a more of a streamlined way.
Yeah. Well, so for listeners out there, and if you're listening to the audio, you didn't get to see Lauren's awesome vision board, but for, anyone who's like, I should have a vision board, I'd love to go about that. What are the steps that they should take to make a vision board?
Yeah. So the first thing is to really just start buying and then holding on to magazines or newspaper articles or anything that has photos the whole point of a vision board is that it's visual. So if you want to,
unless you want to be sketching your vision board, you
yeah,
gotta have something.
Yeah. You could totally draw. You could also do this digitally, like keep a bunch of stuff on Pinterest if you want to. I'm a person who does so much stuff digitally that for me, having a physical, cutting it out and thinking and going through the pages was actually kind of fun, but you could definitely create like a private Pinterest board where you just pin things to it also. But what I did is I just collected a bunch of magazines for a year, and as I bought them and held on to them, then at the end of the year or in January, I basically spread them all out in my living room and I go through each of them, and whatever speaks to you, I just would cut it out and I would have a pile. And then as I started to put the board together, it just kind of, it's like a collage, and it doesn't have to, again, like the idea is to kind of not censor yourself and just sort of see like, what is it that you subconsciously like want for yourself? And then of course, like, looking at it, having it every day to look at. And so for me, it's a lot of messages about, like I've got one that says the magic of you, a lot of things around power women, show us the way, like, running a business isn't simple. I have that as a message there to kind of remind yourself to like, so whatever message you're thinking that you want to send yourself. And some people will also kind of put vision boards together based off of like what they want. So they'll put maybe money on the board and like, maybe they want some nice things. It's really whatever it is that it means to you. But
I like that. Like what's calling to you. It doesn't have to be perfect. Right.
Yeah.
It's what you're
meant to be messy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's meant to be messy. All right. Well, so what has following your passion? Because clearly you're in your passion. I can just feel it when you talk about women in their career. You took all those steps to realize and connect the dots of what it is that you wanted to do, and you made it happen for yourself in your business today. Well, so what has following your passion done for you? Like, what does it feel like to get to be in your passion?
Yeah. I feel like I'm the luckiest person in the world that I get to wake up every day and I'm really excited to go to work. I would say the flip side of that is when you are so deeply passionate about something, you can struggle to see the forest through the trees at times because you are, again, maybe emotionally connected. You maybe have trouble disconnecting the difference between the business and you. Like there are pros and cons to being so deeply like turning your deep passion into your career. So while I feel really lucky that I get to do that, for anyone who's like, well, I'm not working in my passion, that's okay. I think it's also really healthy and a really, really important thing in life to have something that you are passionate about that has nothing to do with your career. When people ask, as a second question all the time, it's like, hi, how are you? What do you do? It's like, make sure that you do have a healthy attachment to what you do for your job and your career. And so having a passion outside of your career is also great. If that were the case for me, it would just be really important that I was working in a company or a field, both ideally, that I feel like I'm really good at. Obviously that's kind of playing to your strengths a little bit. So for me, do I feel lucky that I get to work within my passion every day? Yeah, absolutely. But I also I would say the challenge of that is being really careful about not neglecting myself and kind of, I don't want to overuse self-care, but self-care becomes really important when you're doing that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially running a small business. It's like you're speaking to me. I feel you on this. Yeah, and it can feel very personal because you're putting everything into it beyond just showing up for your workday. When totally. It is your passion. Well, so what career advice do you have for young professionals, emerging professionals today, who are figuring it out, who are maybe not feeling fulfilled? I know you gave a lot of advice throughout, but if you could leave our listener with one final piece of advice, what would that be?
So when I was feeling the most unfulfilled and lost in my career, it was having informational interviews with people who I didn't even know why, but I was like, for whatever reason, when I hear what you do and where you work or whatever like that, it sounds cool. I'd just like to know more. I don't want to overuse the term pick your brain, but I remember I left those feeling very energized, very jazzed up and excited. So if you are feeling unfulfilled, stay curious, stay engaged in the process. And if that means that you need to go to events, if that means you need to set up informational interviews, if that means you need to take whatever coworker in the other department to coffee, start doing that. Engage in your career. Do not be idle. Like, again, when I say make a power move, it's like, it could be something small or a daily move, which is a daily thing too. When you go to a meeting, don't bring your technology with you and be super engaged in the meeting with your boss. Maybe a medium-sized power move is, having that informational interview. And maybe a major power move one day is going to be moving across the country for a job that you're not totally sure if you are, if it's going to be the job, but you're going to take the risk anyways. You know what I mean? Like, all of these things kind of build on each other. And so if you're feeling unfulfilled, start with one small win this week, this month, that you can work toward.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a big fan of the everyday, kind of like a small thing every day, especially when it comes to the informational interview.
Yes.
I want to encourage everyone listening today to take Lauren's advice right here. I would love for you to make that small power move every day, starting today. Reach out to one person. Okay. Go on your LinkedIn. Like what Lauren said, if you notice that there's someone in your network, and no matter how far out of your network they are, but that's doing something cool, that sparks something for you, that you're like, I'm kind of curious about what they do. I want to learn more. And send a quick note, right? It doesn't hurt to do that. Everyone is so much more accessible today. You don't even have to pick up the phone. You can really just send them a note on LinkedIn. But imagine if you do that every day, what that can become for you. You're not going to hear back from everyone, but you're going to hear back from some people who are going to be honored to get a message like that. Like, hey, I think what you do is really fascinating. I'd love to learn more. Can I talk to you for 15 minutes and see if you can get a call with them? And those informational interviews, just like on Lauren's path, those helped her discover what it is that she wanted to do, and she also, it sounded like you learned a lot about what the role entailed so that you were more prepared to get that role in your job.
You cannot wait for education, like someone to come and teach you how to do something. You have to go out and figure out how to do it and connect the dots. And it doesn't matter if you've never done XYZ marketing before. Start by talking to the people who have, and then read about it, and then maybe start your own experiment. The point being is, like, stop waiting for the stuff to come to you. Go out and make it happen. And I know that sounds overwhelming, which is why I encourage everybody, like, one small thing. The small stuff adds up. This is, the same advice that they give to people who want to reach a goal, want to lose weight, want to, build a house. They do not start with the roof. They start with the foundation. They pour foundation. It's a fairly easy process, right? All things considered, compared to like other parts of building the house. That's what I'm talking about. Do one small thing.
Yeah, it's habitual. Make it manageable for yourself. If you guys can, if you're feeling like you're in flux, if you're feeling unfulfilled, please take the step. Or if you're just ready for that next power move. I love that, Lauren did this herself, and it really changed the path of her career. So I want that for you all listening today. Thank you guys. Thank you, Lauren, so much for coming on the podcast. Thank you guys for listening. It is an honor to be part of your career journey. Reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm at Amanda@findyourpassioncareer.com. Thank you for listening, and good luck on those informational interviews. Bye, everyone.